ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. This Lord Krishna, in the verse 6 and 7, he talks about, offering your actions to me. And what does it practically mean? So, what we saw last time is that bringing dharma in life, and this is something that we have heard a lot in Vedanta class, how dharma is something which is a natural program. We all know how we want to be treated, and we apply it to others. And if there are some inner pressures which come in the way, you are able to recognize it and contain it. All this we have heard many times. So yesterday I did something slightly different, and what I tried to do is how, for various reasons, good people are not able to assess what is to be done in a given situation. What keeps them? It doesn't mean they are bad or they come from a bad intention. So the spectrum of people who don't make the right choices includes from all the way from Duryodhana to Arjuna. For some reason or the other, in a given situation, it's not like nobody is only dharmic or adharmic, but all of us make a wrong call for various reasons. And what are those reasons, right? One is just operating from your greed, which seems very, obvious. But then one person is committed to the vow. So in the morning class, sticking to your words is praised. But in the evening class, sticking to your word becomes problematic. Why? What is wrong? It is good. But what the person misses out is the ability to interpret. Yes, I've given a word under these conditions. But if these conditions don't meet, then I have no obligation. This ability to interpret, if you don't have, you lack discrimination, viveka. And then that becomes the only criteria, and you blindly keep applying to every situation. So in some circumstances you go off. The other one is committed to what? Loyalty. This person helped me. This person did something for me. So now I'm forever obliged, and I forever am going to support this person. It's good. Loyalty is good. It's not bad. But this just completely, making that the only criteria for your decision making sometimes takes away your discriminative capacity, because that becomes the guiding factor for your decision making, and that doesn't allow you to see the reality of the situation with an open mind and assess it accurately, right? The other person is operating from what? Revenge. I have been wronged and I have to teach the lesson, right? There is some sense of justice that is violated, and you want to teach that other person a lesson. And that takes over, and that doesn't allow you to see the situation accurately, even though you could be a good human being and you actually could have been violated, like in case of Draupadi. Right? Then there is the Yudhishthir who wants to be nice, and he wants to be considerate, and he doesn't want to rock the boat, and he doesn't want to raise issues which can potentially create what? Conflict. So that's a good quality. See, many of these, what is interesting, they are good qualities. They are not bad qualities. But at some point, if you only get committed to that, it doesn't allow you the freedom to look at the situation. You only see it from that standpoint. And that's why you take a wrong call. Right? So Yudhishthir is an archetype of a person who is overly nice and overly trying to please everyone and overly trying to not keep everything calm at the surface level. And that doesn't allow the person to confront the real issues. And that leads to wrong choices. And then finally we saw Arjuna, who, not that he always makes a dharmic decision. In one given situation, he was confused. His ability to assess was clouded. Why? Because he had, because of his love for his teacher, his grandfather. So these are all noble people. They are not bad people. So this association that we have, that good people always make right choices and bad people always make wrong choices, is not true. Good people can make wrong choices because they are operating from one of these, one of these ideas which are good in themselves. But what makes the decision wrong is they are overly carried away by these ideas, which doesn't allow them to see the reality of the situation. So when you say follow dharma and apply what needs, suppose you apply, I want people to be loyal to me, and therefore I have to be loyal to people. This is samanya dharma. Do you understand? It's a samanya dharma principle. But what is interesting about the Vedic view of dharma is, even if it may work in 90% of the situation, in 10% it requires interpretation. So you can't blindly follow it, regardless of what. That can't become the only criteria, and then you overlook everything else. All of them meet. Emotions are good. Nobody is asking you to be just robotic. And yes, you love your grandfather, and yes, you love your guru, of course. And that meets Samanya Dharma criteria. But it doesn't apply 100% of the time. So that discriminating, so our following Dharma is not rule-based. Tick marking the rule. This is all what needs to be done. So you don't have to think about anything. Just tick mark. Yeah, this has to be done. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. Every situation requires an assessment on your part where your mind is not distorted. It's not overemphasizing one thing and overlooking something else. It's not stuck with one idea. It's malleable. It's able to see the totality. It is not caught with one perspective and one principle and one idea. That is an amazing mind. So it's not easy. It may seem easy because we are all good people, but it's not if you really want to follow Samanya Dharma. One needs to become very sharp, viveka, discriminating, and not mechanical. Right? So that is what I tried to highlight yesterday. And the other dharma that we talk about is Swadharma. And Swadharma refers to the roles that we all play. And the roles that we play, as Swamiji's first talk on the first day, the first video that we saw, he talks really very well, and he makes one thing very clear, that how many of us have a cognitive distance between role and you. How many of us? That the mother is me, but I'm not only mother. This is just one role that I play. Daughter is me. Daughter cannot exist without me. But I'm not just one label, daughter. When I go to work, I'm not daughter. It's not daughter who's going to work. It is the employer or employee who's going to work. So every role is relative and in a specific context. And who are you? Does any of the role completely stick to you forever?
No.
None of the roles that you play are applying in every situation. With reference to your parents, you are a child. With reference to your spouse, you are a husband or wife. With reference to your kids, you are a parent. With reference to your employers, you are an employee. With reference to your community, you are a community member. With reference to your country, you are a citizen. So each role that you take up is only in a given context. But generally, does anyone think of oneself as this basic person who takes on different roles? None of us. So what happens is there is no cognitive distance between the role and you. You become, your whole identity becomes mother. Your identity becomes wife. Your identity becomes, but that's just a role that you're playing with reference to one person. You're not wife to everybody. No.
No.
Right. My God. So, now, suppose you change. And suppose you come to the center and you say, well, I play different roles. I am essentially none of the roles, even as a relative person. We are not talking about final reality, which is Brahman. We are just talking about you, the person. Right? What changes? What does it mean to have that cognitive distance between the role and you? What does practically change? You don't totally identify, this is not. And so what do you say? So one thing is extremely important. When you are relatively lucid about it, a few things happen. One is, you don't, suppose you have a problem in one relationship. What do you tell yourself? This relationship is challenging for me. You don't say, I'm unable to relate. Do you understand? It's not like whole of you. It is just this particular thing which is which brings a challenge. Or you can say,
with more objectivity
yeah.
to it.
So that means the whole of you doesn't get loaded. Otherwise, the whole of you gets loaded. You become, because there is no distance between role and you, that problem which belongs to one role, and it is giving you that particular challenge at that time, you process it as, my God, I have a challenge. But you don't have the same challenge when you relate to somebody else. So you have not qualified it. You have not restricted it. If you have not restricted it, when actually it is restricted, what happens? Your mind processes that the whole of you is consumed by this problem. So what does it do? It magnifies. And it magnifies. It seems huge. It seems overwhelming. Now, as you process it as overwhelming, how does the mind respond to this overwhelming situation? Itself loses its center. But suppose you qualified it and you were more accurate and you say, I am the person, I'm playing different roles. In this particular role, Under this circumstances, you don't always even have a problem in that role. Under this particular circumstances, something happens and it gets derailed. Then what is your response?
It's more manageable.
Much more manageable in your own head. And that is the truth. So what have you done? Not blown it up out of proportion. This is exaggeration. Your mind doesn't have accuracy, but you don't realize it.
Because then it becomes a belief that you start living by.
Yeah.
So life is unfair.
Then it multiplies.
All men are bad. So
It becomes first whole of you is suffering, and then life is unfair, then I didn't deserve this, then maybe others, you look at them as, oh, they are so happy. So some of these, my friends are really funny. So sometimes all these Bollywood or Hollywood stars, they pose as, couple, and they seem like ideal couple. And then, they have a debate. Is this real or is it not real? They seem like having a wonderful time in Maldives and, enjoying and, loving each other so much. And, so these are the photos on social media. And is it totally untrue? It is true. It is totally, totally true. Where is the reality? So what it means is some buy it completely and some negate it completely. And what is the reality? Maybe somewhere in between. Who knows? But that precision we don't have in our thinking. Our buddhi works, either we completely go for it or we completely reject it. But nobody has the inner leisure to see exactly what is happening. Let my mind, do I get my mind to report this situation totally accurately and totally factually. In fact, most of the things which overwhelm you completely will be reduced so much if you just actually limit it to the reality of that situation. And it will become much more manageable because whole of you is not consumed by it. It's not happening to whole of you. It is with reference to this role under some circumstances. That is the truth. So, this is inner leisure. It doesn't take away the problem, but gives you a certain perspective, which is the truth, right? And then from that, your mind can manage it and find ways to solve it. The other thing that happens is that there is no spillover. What is a spillover? Generally, if you're totally identified with the roles, you have no cognitive distance between the roles and you. What happens is you lose that lucidity. So you had difficult time at work. You're not able to say anything to your boss because your job is at stake. You need money and you need to keep your job. So you come home and you frown at your wife or your maid or whoever is at home or your kids. What does it mean? Displaced anger. It's happening. My challenges are in one role. And where is it coming out? In the other. Right? You have a bad day with your husband, suppose. But you in the class, you can't concentrate. Why? Because in the class, when you are playing another role of a student, the wife has taken over. Keeps thinking only about that. So what happens? Then the student is not available because wife is clamoring for attention. Do you understand how, in some ways, how confused we are? And we don't realize how confused we are, how imprecise is our thinking. Because everybody is like that, so it seems all normal.
Could you say the role plays you?
Yeah, the role takes over.
Yeah.
And you are totally consumed by the role. And then it's all mixed up because everything that is happening is all taken on you. You, one entity, and then it all gets displaced everywhere. Because you get so loaded, it comes out in every action of yours. Your mind is not able to process where is it happening, under what, is not able to process it accurately.
Or even one specific situation, one role, then playing out
In the other roles.
in the same role. If you have one situation, for example, with your husband, you have one repeating situation which triggers you. But there are so many other situations which are wonderful and lovely. But then this one takes over, and the whole relationship, for example, with the husband, is taken over by this one trigger, because you say
Which
he
repeats.
always is like that. I mean, and then
It colors everything. Right? So, this cognitive distance is not just lovely idea. You need to operationalize it. What does it mean? What would I do differently in different situations if I had that cognitive distance? You need to ask yourself one more question. Because if you don't ask yourself that question, it seems, yeah, you understand. And you repeat also, yeah, you must have cognitive distance. But it has not. It has not been internalized.
So at first, perhaps you becoming calmer and think over about many solutions. It's
Yeah.
always possible.
Okay, that is very good. It will come. So, I just, the third thing that happens when you are aware, you are able to resolve. Sometimes there is conflict between roles that you play. So then you don't know. So let me give you a situation. So this is a real life situation. So one person comes to me and she comes from a pretty wealthy family. So the husband wants to control the kids through money. So he wants them to go and do this studies and marry this person. And what is his carrot? Inheritance. Right? I have a lot of wealth, and if you do what I tell you, right, then all this belongs to you. But if you defy and if you don't go along with me, I will disinherit you. I will not give you. So the kids, up to a point, when they are young, they fall in that pressure. But as they become adults, it becomes too stifling. So at one point, the kids say, yeah, you keep your wealth, we don't care, we are capable of making our own living. And they really had trouble with their father, and this actually cut off with the father. Now this woman comes to me, she is the wife of this man, and she says that my husband keeps telling me that we both have to act as a unit and you have to be on my side. And she loves her husband, right? And she perhaps also a little bit agrees. She wants to see her kids in a given way. But the kids have their own thoughts and they have their own ambitions and they have their own whatever. But there is a conflict. What is the conflict between role? Should I be a good wife and support my husband? Or should I stand up for my kids and rock the boat with my husband? Conflict between two roles. If you support one, the other gets offended. If you support the other gets offended. How do you resolve these conflicts? What do you do? So she came and asked me, how do I resolve this conflict? So what would you tell? What would you do?
I would let the role for a while decide and just think about the situation and what would be dummy and put the kids under pressure with money is not dummy.
Excellent. So what? Good. Okay. So, good. Anybody else? Good. Good response. Anybody else?
I have something else, but perhaps it's not good, but I can tell. When I'm working in the blood clinic, and I would suggest.
No, let's first talk about this situation.
Okay.
Then we talk about something else. Because now we are trying to see what one would do in this situation. Then we talk about something else, it goes away. So let's finish this.
Okay.
Then we'll come back to that.
If you yourself are too much involved, you can take an advice from a neutral person, perhaps.
Christian, can you repeat?
If you are too much involved yourself as the wife, you can take an advice from a neutral person.
Yeah. So you can take advice from neutral person, but if the husband is not willing to take advice from the neutral person.
No. Sorry. I am. You can ask him if you both can take a step back and see what the problem really is. Let us look about the problem and not about the money. Money is only a symbol. Yes.
Yeah, true.
Perhaps he can understand what I mean.
Yeah. See, this inter-role conflicts are real conflicts and you have to resolve them. So I told her that, this whole, what is this thing about you being basic person and every role is incidental? What does that knowledge tell you with reference to what to do in this situation? A little bit like what Jens is saying. And what is that? You are not fundamentally either mother or a wife. You are a human being. And give yourself that place that you are the center. And it's not like your role is either to only take the side of the husband or only take the side of your kids. You can have your own voice. Sometimes you may agree with your husband and you say so. Sometimes you agree with your children and you say so. And sometimes you don't agree with both and you have to say so. Where is you here? There is no, her doesn't exist. Her existence, that basic person doesn't come. She sees herself, her whole self as either mother or spouse. She has lost herself. I said the first thing you do is create a space for you. You are an independent human being. You can't define yourself only through one of the roles and you have to be loyal to one of them and decide from now on who are you going to be loyal to. What is this? What is this condition? And then you are in huge dilemma. Do I take this side or do I take that side? Where is your opinion? And this is exactly what Jens is saying. I'll put both the roles aside and I come back to the basic person being. And basic person who is able to assess. And that basic person will assess the situation depending upon what the situation is. There is no pre-decision as to I'm only going to support this or only going to support that. that center, if you have not found in yourself, you are just all over the place and people keep manipulating you. So I told her, create that space for you. That's your first job. You have no space. You are totally consumed by two roles and the conflict between the two roles. So all what Swamiji says, find inner space, is not small. It means a lot of things. Practically. So, this is what we call deepening your knowledge and deciphering what does it all mean, how do you operationalize. Then the role plays that we did on the first day, they did a lot of good. I think many people got insights. And what is interesting is, two things came out which were wrong attributes. So somehow people were telling themselves, the way they were processing it is, if you are consumed, if you have no cognitive distance between the role and you, what would you do? This means this, and it's not always this means this, right? We make mistakes. So, most of the time, the general discussions went towards, if you have no cognitive distance, means you are completely identified with the role, then what you would do is that you are very emotional because there is no distance. And the second thing is, then you are very stubborn and you are not able to let go. And if you have cognitive distance, you don't let your emotions interfere too much. And you are able to easily let go. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. Then what we operationalize, prasada buddhi, it's okay. Is this attribution correct? Is this the deciding factor whether you have cognitive distance or not? Is it? Is this interpretation? Mary is saying no. Why not?
Because after that, when we analyzed, we said that in both cases there are emotions. In one case, the emotion may be expressed disproportionately. In the other one, the emotion is being managed and then expressed.
Right. So it's not like this is emotion and this is no emotion. This is not the meaning. We give this meaning, but the real meaning is not that. Here, it is destructive emotion. What are the destructive emotions? You put the other person down. You say that person is no good. I'm good. You bring in totally irrelevant things. My wife will be very unhappy if I don't get this promotion. She was counting on me. This is irrelevant to the job. You are bringing things which are not connected. So, all this is a little totally, this is unhealthy to put others down. This is irrelevant altogether. But somebody was saying, how many people do it? So, here, the emotion, it's not like, you are like, it's raining, it was raining and the food was good and this is not somebody who is here. What are how do you express, I really love the company? Do you understand? Constructive. I want to do well. This job means a lot to me. Emotions. But destructive? Constructive. You are expressing your love. You are expressing what it means to you. You are expressing that this job you don't just take lightly, and it is important for you to do well. This doesn't mean emotions, and this doesn't mean no emotions. Do you understand this? It's very, very important. Cognitive distance, what does it do differently in our behaviors? We don't get it. That's why everything is halfway. Every thought is halfway. Now, the second way. The second is, here you are stubborn and sticking on and sticking on and sticking on and becoming this, parasite and like, I need it and I want it and I want it. Right? That is not really, the boss is like, okay, now I have another meeting. They will just tell you after a point. After 2 times, if you just go on sticking and go on, they will just tell you they will tell you that I have next meeting. And you will go fuming that not only nothing is resolved, but the boss just told me off and asked me to leave. Because you didn't have any constructive conversation. You were just sticking to your point and going on reiterating. Here, what you can do is not your ability to let go. Oh yeah, this time I didn't get it. Okay, it's fine. I can get it next time. This is not cognitive distance. What would you do differently? What you can do differently is constructive conversation, which will allow you to achieve your goal. What does it mean? You can ask question to the boss. Where exactly did I not do well? What are the skills that I can develop so that next time I have better chance? Right? So, how would you advise me to go through the year developing things that I need? What can I do better? That conversation is not being stubborn. What is this conversation? Finding solutions. And you're not blaming and you're not showing your entitlement. You're moving towards the goal constructively. And you're inviting honest feedback whether that person, instead of defending their decision, actually helps you to move towards where you want to go. Do you see the difference? That cognitive distance, we give attributes which don't exist. And then we say, yeah, we all get it. That is something that's why the deeper Vedanta means deeper thinker. Can't be left halfway. Ideas which are half-baked, half-cooked, not fully understood, they don't bring about transformation. For transformation, you need to understand and then implement. Because this is good. It's not about giving up. It's about constructively moving towards the goal and inviting feedback, asking questions, inquiring without blaming and without sticking to your standpoint and I want it and somehow I want it. Then showing your own flexibility, willingness to change, willingness to put in hard work, willingness to pay attention to developing certain skills. You are showing certain openness to move forward. and you are asking for that person's help to help you to move forward. This is game changing. That person will become, if you approach that person in this way, instead of complaining, why didn't I get this promotion? And you just say, I love this company, it means a lot to me, now what can I do? It's a totally different type of conversation than here, bringing irrelevant fact, bringing others down, sticking to your point and going on talking, I have to get it, I have to get it. This is not constructive. That basic person, if you develop, and if you make your thinking process is precise and accurate, you become a problem-solving person, not a complaining person.
What it means for your whole environmental when you are that basic person and not acting like this.
Yeah.
What you do in your environmental if you act like that.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's huge.
Not only for yourself, also
But for everybody
people
else.
around, yeah. Mm.
This, if you understood what Swamiji was saying, this is transformative. It's not just nice idea.
And if you have such a person who's so much identified, it's horrible for yourself to be together with this person. We had such a person in our department
Yes.
so many years, and it was so hard.
It's so hard to deal with this
Yeah.
stubborn people who are, all throwing out displaced emotions everywhere, putting people down, showing one superiority, sticking to their point, keep coming back. This is a difficult
Blaming
person.
the others, and
Not constructive. This everybody likes. Why? Because you're not expressing, why didn't I get the promotion? I love this work. And yes, okay, this year I didn't get it, but what can I do now? Let's think about it, and I'm willing to do everything that it takes to, be this person who qualified. And the boss will change their attitude completely.
But for a good process, you need the other one too.
But if anybody, you can't control. If you keep waiting for others, this itself is a wrong starting point. Instead of trying yourself and seeing what happens, your mind goes to, other person will not respond. Why? Why does the mind only go to the other person will not respond? Because most of the time, have you thought about that you have not approached the situations like this? How many times we think about that? We always think others are not flexible. What we don't see is our ways are also very faulty. If you begin to take responsibility, that is when you're growing. Otherwise, you constantly keep telling yourself, I will do everything, but others will not change, so I'm back to square one. This is a non-starter. This way of thinking is a non-starter. Let me try this. If it doesn't work, let me try something else. But your mind is constructively trying to move towards problem solving, and it doesn't get stuck with dissatisfaction and blame. This gift you can give yourself. Others' behaviors is their problem. It's not your problem. Your behavior is definitely your problem, and you can solve it. But if your mind keeps going on, but whatever I do, the other person is not going to change. When will you make the effort? So what does it mean? Gita means you have to become a self-reflective person and see the magic. That when you begin to change, your thought processes begin to change, your attitudes begin to change. See the magic of what happens.
And every moment is a fresh moment.
Every morning it's a fresh person who is dealing with life. Not this loaded person with all these past impressions and attributes and making everything miserable and options and victim, and that person will remain like this. The darkness is too much. So there was somebody who wrote, it's an interesting story, very fun, it is very simple story. So there was this couple who bought a new house, and they moved into the new house, and every day they would have breakfast, and she would look out and she would look at the neighbor's house, and every day the wife will complain that the neighbors are so dirty, everything is dusty, and they are just mess. Every morning she would complain, and the husband will say, okay, now that's okay, now. Now one day she gets up and she has breakfast, and she's having breakfast, and she says, wow, look, the neighbors have cleaned their surroundings. And she's so happy. And what does the husband say? I have cleaned the windows. Whole life can go in complaining, blaming, being a victim. Putting yourself in a position that you have no options. And you, the good one who has all the good ideas, but nobody listens to you. From that to the whole life about gaining my accuracies, getting my thought processes right, getting my attitude correct, putting my emotions in order, then you become a person who is working towards the truth. Surya also. Surya, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. Now I wanted to show the other side of what she was telling and narrating my own experience. So every year we have, I report directly to the dean of this management school, right? And it's like this level. So I was quite relaxed before I went there, but I heard some people saying, yeah, he's tough this year and he's putting the bar very high and so on. So that influenced me. And then I was preparing frantically what on the defensive side to justify all what I had done and where there could be some gaps and so on. So that was my whole preparation, which was influenced by people around me. I entered the room with him. He doesn't ask me any question about all what I have prepared. But on the other hand, what does he do? Okay, let's look at how, together, how we can develop this center. I really want this center to shine. I'm heading a center. And he loves this idea of the center, is a center for wisdom. And he has integrated that in the mission of the school itself, right? So he showed me how much he was interested in the idea and how I could develop. And from there, I shifted totally, right? So imagine and the conversation was an amazing conversation of 50 minutes to 1 hour, and we devised the whole plan for this year, what we'll do, how we will do it. I was giving some ideas, he was bouncing back another idea, then I was reacting on this and so on. We're speaking about the means, financial means necessary, recruiting people and so on. So it was an amazing constructive day.
So it was no defense of your personal work when you work together.
Yeah, and it was supposed to be an annual review of what I have done. Right? You see? And then how it turned, right? So it's amazing. So what does it mean here? Is that Sometimes when we say, oh no, he is not whatever, but sometimes this is our own assumption of how the other is. He might be in reality like this, that happens also. But sometimes we are fixed in our idea of the other, and the other may surprise you. So, what saved me is that I was able, even though I was prepared, I was open. It means I didn't enter in the room with fear. I was open. And I said, let's see now how the conversation and the thing will sound. And when I saw that I shifted, right? I shifted immediately and participated in this. You see that? This is the idea.
So do you mean you were with your basic person, not
Yes.
as a role to
Yeah.
defend yourself,
No.
or perhaps you did not do
Because I knew what I had done during
Yeah.
the year, and I was so quite happy. And I knew that also to some extent he was appreciating the work because it had a big impact. Brought a global recognition, made some international network and connection. So I knew. So I brought back this side. I said, yeah, on one side, the experience of the other cannot dictate it. It is the experience of the other. And maybe because they didn't perform, or they were young faculties,
You stood with yourself.
I stood with myself.
Yes.
And maybe the dean also was clever, because then with reference to those who needed maybe to be a little bit challenged, a little bit pushed and so on, he would initially shake them, but then he had also the same attitude, because he said, okay, what is the development plan you have in mind for the next year to this young faculty? Right? Okay, now in terms of teaching, your feedback is not good. To me, he never asked. But to the young, he would ask. So, okay, at the end of this, when we meet again, give me what are your actions that you propose to do to improve your communication skill, or how you prepare and make the content of your classes more with stories and real case studies and so on. Right? So, okay. So see how even though he was like making his point, still at the same time he was very, very constructive.
So I think he was clear about every person, what he should do, how to bring the center
the best.
more the best. So he had a clear mind.
So I was totally impressed, right? Very proudly impressed. Yes. And I told Nima, when I came back, I said, wow, that is the kind of conversation that you would like to have.
What I also like about this story is, even though he initially went with this defensive thing, the other person was different, and that made him change.
Yeah. And then you have to take care
Yeah.
that when the other persons go in defense, that it is not
That-
part of your part. You
Exactly.
stay with yourself and
Absolutely.
you see the other person and you also stay with you
And
you
that
open
person,
your hands.
maybe the feedback he got from others is he's very strict, but maybe he's strict with reference to those with whom he needs to be strict, but not with. But you hear from 5 people he's strict, and this becomes your opinion about him. He's always going to be strict. But it's not true. So often we go wrong with our assessment of who the person is. And then we make that person the fixed person. We don't see the multifacetedness of that person. And then you have this image of that person, and you also are relating to that image of that person, which itself is inaccurate.
Nima, but it's the same like you explained, the role of Duryodhana and so on. When we are clear, then we can be flexible, react on the situation, on the person. We can be strict, but on the other hand, we can say, let it go because the person is able to do on their own. And this is really a person.
This
who's
malleability,
leader,
right?
who's
This
managing.
malleability and not fixedness and not
clarity.
rules and rigidity. And that ability to assess. And I mean, this, if you become this person,
And imagine if you have this clarity in mind to know, to exactly know how to behave in a situation. And this is what the Gita says.
This
isn't
is
it?
what Gita
It's
is
Gita.
amazing.
Yeah.
And this cognitive distance where you don't lose yourself in the roles, and the whole what is happening in the role is not totally consuming you. This is how you begin to behave.
And then if you are clear in your own decisions and not you lie in bed during the night and the rumors are coming,
Ruminate.
you are so clear, you know what to do. And you know that it is the right way to do. Yeah.
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 Sander and Martina. Sander.
What came up for me seeing this model is that it seems like if you have no cognitive distance, that and what we saw during the role play, we want to do the opposite, but we go too far. So it seems like it is also possible to have too much cognitive distance when you become like a robot and not in touch with your emotions. So it seems that
And too easy, not trying enough.
and
Everything is order.
yes, you
You
do
know.
not want to enter a conversation because you're anxious that you get emotional. I think that can be the case. So what is now on the right side seems to be like the middle way, like where you see both the opposites and you work like constructively with your emotions and with your cognition.
Cognitive capacity.
Yeah.
And work towards the goal, right? Not like, oh, now that I know it's only a role, it doesn't matter. No, this is why, what did Swamiji say? That person who has the cognitive distance between the role and the actor is able to act even better than the real life beggar. Is able more lucid. It's not like a lose, let's give it up, doesn't matter. It's not like that. But this is what it seems to us. That's why it's very important, right? To little bit dig in and shake ourselves and say, hey, what does it actually mean? How do I operationalize this idea? What does it translate into? What kind of behavior it brings about?
And this comes exactly at the right time because I was just this afternoon formulating an email about the new job, and I see that I have to look at it because there are way more ways to ask questions, and so it's very helpful.
Martina.
Actually, it was exactly, I would work in the clinic, like, should the wife follow the husband and the children? And I would ask the client, what do you want? And I was not sure, and so I was so interested because it's the same.
Okay. So now, so this it means what doing both samanya dharma. Imagine living a life of dharma. Samanya dharma, the universal values, you have to get it right. Role, you have to get it right. Every role has a script. There is no mix-up. You don't get over-consumed or over-identified with one role. You are able to manage the conflict between roles, and you don't lose your center. This is the person that Gita is asking you to become before that knowledge takes place. And all that happens, I think somebody, Jens was saying, you only can do all this if you bring Ishvara in your life. Why? Where is the connection? Why is bringing Ishvara in your life is important? In Samanya Dharma, yes. Because human mind has tendency to justify and enter into a delusion. Nobody wants to call oneself a dharmic. So your buddhi finds a way to justify everything that you do. and convinces you it's okay, normalizes things which are not normal, which then allows you to do it. So dharma is not something you decide. Dharma is the law of Ishvara. You can justify, but please remember that when the results come, they don't come according to your justification. They come according to the infallible laws of Ishvara. Then be prepared. And it is in your interest to use your buddhi to understand what are those laws and to align with them. You can't go very far if you try to use your buddhi to justify. Once you understand that, you understand value of values. You use your buddhi not to justify, you use your buddhi to conform, because you can't be a winner. That means your thought processes are moving in the straight direction. It's not going off. Ishvara as dharma is infallible order.
And you directly get the answer from the order, you feel clean and you feel that it is the right action.
Absolutely. Right. So this is one thing. And bringing Ishvara in your life with Swadharma, who has placed you? There are billions of people. How many people you interact with in your life? Closely. 20. If you are very famous or big position, maybe 50, 100, right? Closely. And each person brings different situation in your life. All this is arranged not just randomly, it's all by the order. 2 kids growing up in the same house face very different circumstances, different people they meet, different experiences they have. Everything is within Ishvara's order. Your whole life. So what does it mean? Every character that you meet, there is something that you need to perhaps learn. There is some reason for you to interact only with these 20 people and not out of these 7.1 billion people. And maybe your growth and your trajectory requires all of this. And there are some causes and effects which has caused it. It's not just random. And that's why every role is now seen as something where you can potentially learn and evolve. And if everywhere you see, okay, now this is somewhere, this is what I need to learn and evolve, what becomes bad? What becomes a failure? None. There is no failure. Wow, what a relief. There is no failure in life. There is only learning and moving forward. Your whole view of life changes. You feel safe. You don't feel being punished. You don't feel being reprimanded for doing all the wrong things. And being, put in difficult situations so that finally you can learn your lessons. Horrible way to look at life. Because you were so down, you didn't learn lessons with moderate difficulty. So now you are given huge problems so that you will learn. Is this inspiring? Not at all. What does it mean? Ishvara has infinite patience. This time you missed it, doesn't matter. One more time. This time also you are in your own trip, doesn't matter. One more time. Infinite patience for you to learn your life lessons as you go along. Possibilities, potentials, opportunities for you to collapse. Impersonal, unbiased, infallible. In this, you relax and then begin to make changes in your life with leisure, without self-blame, without forcing yourself. You relax and you trust and you do what needs to be done. Because one thing that this you can't skip. This is how Ishvara has created. You have to have relative tranquility. As we saw in the morning class, the discriminative capacity or objectivity doesn't just dawn on you. You need to work for it. What gives you an opportunity to work for it? Your interaction with forms. Otherwise, you're not going to have it. And as you develop it through your interactions with the forms, that discriminative mind, that objective mind, when it sits in Vedanta class, is able to absorb the words accurately. There's a connection. This is the order. You cannot bypass this order. So this is something that he says, the simple words, and look what he says, that if you offer your actions unto me, taking me as the final goal, then what? Before long, I become the liberator from the ocean of samsara that is fraught with death. What does it mean? As you are in that journey of clearing up things and preparing yourself, then the knowledge sits with you. It is not forced. Yeah.
What just comes to my mind is listening to the conversation here today and yesterday. It is so clear. It becomes so clear. It becomes so clear to me how deep-rooted our dualistic thinking is. I mean, it's either good or bad. It's either the husband or the children. It's either this or that. So we are really caught by this kind of dualistic thinking, which is so deep-rooted. And the question is, how can we get the non-dual reality when our mind is stuck in this kind of dualistic thinking model?
And such a binary extremes, right? Many.
So, what came to me in the last part of this discussion was that when you said bringing Ishvara into your life and also relaxing in Ishvara, immediately it feels like then there is so much compassion towards your own self. Because without this, there's so much of
Pressure.
tension and stress, and then beating yourself up. And the minute you're letting and allowing Ishvara in, the self-compassion comes up.
Excellent. It's so important that this process of growth is not like forced with, this again, now you are the stick, oh, I'm not able to do this, Gita is telling me to do this, but I've still now deviated and, self-criticism and again beating yourself up. I'm studying Gita for 10 years and I'm still doing this. It's unnecessary. Oh, and it's my karma, I have to go through all these difficulties. You don't need all this to load yourself further. I'm being punished for all the wrong things that I have done. It's a horrible idea. And suppose according to you have had huge traumas, then what? And then what it means is, if you're going along that line, it's like, I didn't learn my lessons when moderate difficulties were given. I was so dumb. that now all these huge problems have come so that I can learn. Is it inspiring? It is healthy? Not at all. Right. And then see, as you begin to be compassionate with yourself, you also begin to be compassionate with others. You are not so categorical about any one person. You understand their limitations, you understand where they are operating from, you understand all that. But it's not like you're condemning this person and this is this evil person. There is no such person. All that is here is Ishvara. Different levels of layers, different levels of ignorance, which guides the person's behavior. And that same person who is ignorant is not like ignorant at all times. Like Swamiji used to say, a criminal can be very cruel to somebody who that person murdered, but it can still be loving to the child, his own child or her own child. It's capable. So this is why also Swamiji said in the first day talk, people take to crime for different reasons, but nobody is a criminal. Criminal means one fixed label which doesn't change ever. There is no such thing. In an ever-changing world, there is nothing which is fixed. We make it fixed through our vision. That is because of imprecision in our vision. We are not able to see the realities as they are. So all these ideas we have to correct. And as Mili says, do it with alertness, but with certain self-compassion. Then you relax. Neither you blame yourself, nor you blame others. You see the dynamic nature of things, and you do what needs to be done in that given situation. So, now, let's move to the next verse. 8.
Everybody can chant this one. We go this verse.
Yeah.
Just it.
Yeah.
The number 8.
Number 8.
We just do it. You can start.
Maye Vamana Adaransva Mayi Buddhim Niveshaya Nivasishyasi Mayeva Atabudvam Na Samshaya.
Okay, who wants to read? Mayyeva mana adatsva Mai buddhim niveshaya. Who wants to read?
In me alone, may you place the mind. In me you place the intellect. Thereafter there is no doubt that you will abide in me alone.
Okay. So he is talking about two things, mind and buddhi. So what we do need to understand is, so place in me. So what does it mean? Place your mind in me and place your intellect in me. What does it mean? So what we do need to understand is that this so-called antakarana that we have, from the standpoint of its functions, it's seen in two ways. So let's look at the two ways. Mind, manas, is defined in two ways by the tradition. One is the seat of emotions. The other way to think is that the first response, whenever a situation occurs, the mind processes that information and creates first impression, which is sometimes instinctive, impulsive, but it's required. Why is it required? if you're crossing the road and you see a car which is coming very fast, do you sit and think, okay, now I have all these options, and now what do I do? And you just what? Immediately either retreat or you run forward to avoid. So what does it mean? Impulsive mind is not bad. Some responses have to be instinct. Right? And you are cooking something and you have put your finger in the fire or in the hot water. Immediately you don't deliberate. You just take it out. You don't want to be burnt. So what it means is this instinctive mind. In terms of in science they call it amygdala.
Yeah, the primitive.
The primitive. And it also means there is another definition in the tradition which is called Sankalpa Vikalpatmikaha Manaha. And what does it mean? The place where options, Sankalpa and Vikalpa. Do I do this or do I do this? That deliberate options are created. And buddhi, according to the tradition, is what? This is seat of emotion, this is intellect. Your cognitive capacity. And what is a cognitive capacity? Cognitive capacity means when you go to school and learn 2 plus 2 is equal to 4, there is no instinctive or there is no option or there is no emotion. You are just understanding things, right? Your ability to process information and to understand things accurately. This is buddhi, intellect. It is also described as prefrontal cortex in terms of its function, which is able to assess and process in detail the information and not only go with instincts.
Taking decisions.
This is your ability to process further beyond your instinctive, the picture that your mind has given. So, prefrontal cortex, analytical brain. And here, Sankalpa Vikalpatmikaha Manaha, and here it is Nishchayatmika Buddhi. This person, through intellect, understanding the situation, analyzing beyond the first impression, is able to make calls, is able to make decisions among the different options that the mind has created. So do you understand? Even manas, if you can look from 3 standpoints, and buddhi, you can look from 3 standpoints. Decision making. And what is interesting is different texts define buddhi and manas differently so that you don't get stuck, because mind is complex and it has multi-functions. So if you just say it's only one, you are not capturing the totality. Even manas is described through either just emotions or through sankalpa vikalpatmikaha manaha, that ability to create options. Right? So that needs to be understood. So now, what he says, now look at this. This you offer to me, and this also. Buddhi, in your mind and in your buddhi, you bring me. Mayeva mana adatsva. Mai buddhim niveshaya. Now what does it mean? In your emotional life, in the emotions, your emotions which are problematic for you, they have a narrative, they have a story. And those stories, even though they're not totally wrong stories, there is an element of inaccuracy and building up on that inaccuracy. So somewhere along the line, things have become exaggerated or denied or blocked. Do you understand? So what it means is that the emotions are based not only on exactly what happened or what is happening, it is based on your interpretation and your story and your narrative of what happened. And there can be substantial discrepancy between the two. So every emotional burden and huge suffering is very likely not exactly because what is happening to you, but it is the value that you have given and the total identification with that as the only thing which is guiding your life, and also exaggerated picture of what it means. Bringing your when it comes to emotional maturity, what we try to do, and that's why we never succeed, we try to modulate our emotions. Oh, I shouldn't be too angry. Modulate. Let me become less angry. I shouldn't be too sad. Let me not be too sad. I should not have too many fears. So bring my fear levels down. But it never actually sits. Why doesn't it? We keep struggling. And why do we keep struggling? Because what we don't recognize is that emotions are indicators. And behind every emotion there is a narrative. And as long as that narrative is inaccurate, merely moderating emotions is not going to be successful. So if you want the emotion to flow, your narratives have to become more and more accurate, more and more in keeping with what is, and not your build-ups and your attributes, which are not precise. They seem real to you, but they are not precise. So I have to tell you a story which is interesting. One day, somebody brings, one young girl, 19-year-old, to me, and they come with this problem of this 19-year-old that she is sent to England and she is in very nice private school, but she is not performing, and she's lost motivation, and she is just basically wanting to drop out and unable to function. So they didn't know, because she was a bright girl. So the parents were not the mother brought her, and she said, "Can you help her?" So I said, "Yeah, I don't know, but I can talk to her." Right. So what was interesting is that I started chatting with her, and I just wanted to listen to what was going on with her life. So her story is that my mother, her father and mother had separated. So she was living with her mother, and her mother was a successful executive in a big company. So she was busy. So her story was, my mother is never available for me. So I'm only, when I come home from school, I'm alone at home. And if anything needs to be fixed, like electrician or everything, plumbing, everything falls on me. And I understand, and so, in school there are some big events, and I'm taking part in piano competition or I'm taking part in debate. My mom is never available because she is busy. And even when we have dinner together, she's always on the mobile, answering calls from office. So basically, I'm just left alone. And I had no love. And the undue responsibilities fell on me. I was a child and I had to do all the job of an adult. So I went on and on and on. But ultimately, I have broken down. When I wake up in the morning, then she says that, my mom, obviously there were issues with us and there was a strain. So she now has packed me off to some exclusive school in England. But she's just basically, for the world it looks, wow, I'm studying in some private school. But she's just basically got rid of, she just put me there so she doesn't have to deal with me. And now, every morning, I have difficulty getting up from the bed. Why am I doing it? I have no motivation. I feel ignored. I feel not loved. Now, that is huge, right? So this emotion. Now, how do you help somebody who feels like that? Can you start saying, oh, your mom loves you? Is it going to sit? Not really. Right? So, what you have to, at least what I did now, I don't know but it worked because now she's doing well. So, and I just met her once. I did not like met with her and many times. But one thing I said, I do understand that this is very tough. It's not easy. But I said, I had a long conversation, but I don't want to repeat the whole conversation. But I ended by saying something. I said, all this is true. And I do understand that it brings pain. Now, you're 19-year-old, you have whole life ahead of you. You have to decide whether this is the narrative which is going to govern rest of your life. And you keep making yourself miserable, or you look for other options. The choice is yours. How do you want to make your life? I said, all this is fact which if you are telling me, it is true from your standpoint. But now, fill the picture of what is happening to you. This is that, but fill the whole picture. Is this all your life is about? I said, tell me who loves you? Oh, my grandmom loves me. My mom is never available, but she doesn't miss a single day when I am taking part in the tournament or something. What is this information? This is equally true. But in her emotional life, it's only focused here. And is building up here. And life has become so dark. So the real picture of life is not only this. Then I said, okay, so great, your grandmother loves you. That's lovely. Then I said, what about your friends? Oh, she says, yeah, my friends, actually they understand that my mom is too busy. So they take me to their home, their mom cooks for us, and they know what I love, they cook for me. This is also happening to her. But where is she focused? Only on her mom. What does Ishvara Srushti? Yes, this is a challenge, but all the other things are happening. The person is loved, not maybe by this mother who she expects, but somewhere else, and maybe in her own way. Obviously, the mother also loves her, but not in the way she wants. Then I said, okay, now you tell me, with whom do you have deep relationships? She says, oh, my boyfriend is really nice to me. He's sensitive. I tell things and he understands and he supports me. So what it means is, what is going on in her life is many, many different things simultaneously. But what is she focused on? Her relationship with mother and all the horrible things, and building up on her. What it means now, that mother is sending her to England to a private school, instead of enjoying it, it's like, oh, she wants to get rid of me. Everything is seen with this story in mind. She doesn't want me, she doesn't love me, she doesn't give me attention, she doesn't care for me. Life has become so difficult. So now I told her, okay, so your picture, total reality of life, and without negating this, when you fill in and bring every other aspect, how does it look now? As dark? As miserable? Not at all. Yeah, you have missed out on one thing, but the universe has compensated you with many other things. Then I said, you have to now decide whether this is the governing narrative which is going to rule your decision making and how you think, or are you going to change your narrative based on the reality of what is happening to you. What do you want? It's you. I don't have to live your life. You have to live your life. She says, obviously, I want to, no, who wants to be like from 19-year-old, I'm doomed, there's no love, I'm neglected. And, the whole life, this is the narrative. How boring. How self-defeating, how pessimistic, how skewed. Now, I said, yeah, but this gap, you can't also ignore. It's not like this doesn't exist and only this exists. Other things exist, but this also exists. So this lack of love you have to address. But you have to address it intelligently. That very thing that you lack, instead of complaining and complaining and complaining, you start giving love to others. You don't wait to be loved. As it is, there are some people, your grandmother loves you, your boyfriend loves you, your friends love you. So it's not like it's totally lacking. But this relationship is still unsettled and it has left some scars in you. And still that love is not healed, that wanting to be loved is not totally healed. What do? I said, you start giving love that you did not receive. You don't wait for somebody to love it. I asked her, tell me, to whom can you give this love? Change your story. She said, I have a sister who also feels equally neglected. She is my younger sister. So I said, give her the love. Because she is also what? The same mother. Both of them are going through and struggling. She changes her story. She is the elder sister. And what does she do? She starts, instead of complaining what mother did not give them, she takes a responsibility and says, okay, at least I can initiate. Right? Not only I fill my picture, but to heal this relationship, what do? I start giving love to my younger sister. I start taking care of her. And then see, as you add new variables, what happens? You change the trajectory. The new variables are not going along with the same story. The unloved you who's searching for love, is needy, is always feeling uncared for. That story is changed. Not only you see the totality, but this part which was difficult is also healed by doing something which is going to change the story. And this is the truth, it's not, when she left me, she was smiling. Why was she smiling? Because she felt empowered. She saw herself in a different light. She saw her life in a different light. Instead of creating this whole dark picture of lack of love and being so wallowed in it and unable to function, she saw that there were options. She could do things differently. And after all, her life was not as dark as she had made it out to be. And then, I'm in touch with her mother and she says, no, she is doing well and she's able to. It's not like only my conversation, but I did see, and the mother also said, she came back feeling empowered. And instead of thinking of, I am the victim of somebody else's doing, she took charge of her own life and said, okay, how am I going to help myself? How am I going to live the rest of my life? And how I'm going to make decisions with this narrative. It's always the hurt one who is relating. Always the one who never felt loved is relating. This basic person, if it's so bruised, so colored, it will percolate in your decision making. What does it mean? These stories and these narratives create strong emotions. Those emotions we try to modulate, but we struggle with it. The only way to actually let these emotions flow is to bring your buddhi and change the narrative and make it not positive thinking. There was nothing positive about this. It was all factual. It was not making, you can give yourself everything, affirmations, look at the mirror, see you're loved. Tell yourself, I'm loved, I'm loved. It is not real. This is sophisticated. It's bringing realities into your life. See, filling the pictures. See possibilities. Cognitive. If all these affirmations and techniques work, one seminar is enough. Because it worked. But you keep running from one seminar to the other. What does it mean? Nobody heals. Because people don't go deep enough into correcting things. Mayeva mana adatsva mai buddhi niveshaya. When you bring Ishvara in your life, you fill the picture and you bring possibilities. and you bring causes, to counter the other causes. You are working with Ishvara's order. Not doing one thing, multiple things. So this is something which is also very important, that our mind, as Gabby said, is very binary. Either this or that. And this is one extreme and that is another extreme. And between those two extremes, there are number of possibilities. This is where intelligent navigation comes. And we don't explore those possibilities enough. So if your mind creates sankalpa vikalpatmikaha manaha, if your mind creates only two options, your buddhi will select what? One of them. But if your mind is more creative, is more in tune, and is able to create more options, which are more nuanced, your buddhi has what? Much more options to choose from. This is how you give yourself freedom. Your mind always creates a scenario. I'm stuck and I can't get out. So either I remain stuck or I completely walk out and and then I find this freedom, God knows which freedom. This is how our mind works. What is making it more nuanced? In between these two options, there are many interesting things that you can do. Many things which are not categorical. And explore those options. Use your creativity. How can I deal with this situation? So we did one seminar for the corporate and we used Mahabharata and Ramayana. And we gave this scenario, and it's not about criticizing those characters, just using those characters to analyze. And we said, okay, in a situation, like for example, Kaikai is asking Dashrath that I want to encash the boon. You send Rama to the forest for 14 years. And my son Bharat becomes the king of Ayodhya. Now, Dashrath is thinking in two ways. What are the two ways? Either I ignore what Kaikai is saying, but she puts a guilt that you are somebody who comes from this lineage. Same like Nachiketa. They hold their words. They don't just go back on their words. So either you become this ordinary person who goes back on the words, or you stick to the words and do what I ask you to do. So for Dashrath, this is not like Dashrath. We are saying, it seems to us as though Dashrath has only two options. Either to go along with Kaikai and send Rama for 14 years, or just completely ignore her. What is she going to do? And say, okay, now here I choose not to do it and I forget it. So in between these two options, what are the other options? You will be surprised. All these executives came up with 6 or 7 brilliant options besides these two. Just one or two. What else could he have done?
I think it's good to investigate what her need exactly is. So ask questions to her.
Okay. This is like playing psychotherapist. Okay, what are your needs? And let's analyze you before we think about following.
Yeah. I think it's important to know,
good. Where is she coming from? Excellent. Yeah. But how would you do it? What would you do? Like you started interrogating her, or what would you do?
So she, if I understand the story correct, she asked for 2 boons.
Yes.
The first boon, what
Rama.
exactly is it that what is underneath there? What is your desire? Is it about the kingdom or is it something else?
Okay, good. I mean, just little bit try to understand where is she coming from and maybe address some of her concerns and her needs so that she doesn't come to these drastic demands. That's a good approach. Anything else? Which is still within dharma, but different options. So, some people said, he could have said, you want this for Bharat, let's call Bharat and ask him, is it acceptable to him? Bharat loved Rama. Bharat perhaps would not have accepted it at all. And that's what happens in the story. When Bharat was away and when he comes home and when he comes to know that his mother has sent his brother away so that he can become the king, he disowns his mother. And he's so harsh to her. It's like, who are you? I'm ashamed to be your son. How could you do this to Rama? It's within dharma. Do you understand? Or he could have said, you know what? I as a husband ask you to, choose a boon. I promise that I'll give a boon. But here we are not talking about our personal thing. We are talking about King of Ayodhya. Difference in role. And the husband giving boon to wife and here the king making a decision. And he could have said, a kingdom cannot be ruled by the transaction between us. Let's ask people of Ayodhya. Who do they want as a king? Do you understand? Within dharma, you can come up with different options. But do we have that creativity? Do we have that capacity to say there is more than just two ways? Either I follow her or I disregard her. If I disregard her, I'm going back on my words and and if I follow her, I'm suffering for the rest of my life. This is what Vedanta does. Cultivates your mind and your buddhi, increases its accuracies of thoughts and unleashes its capacity to think and create different options within dharma and not operate in this binary. This is called expansion of mind. That's why it takes time. It's not techniques that you follow. Your whole the mental infrastructure is expanded. The place from where you're operating is it is stretched. It is so much more refined. It's so much more subtle. It's so much more nuanced. It's so much more precise. And your buddhi is developed, decision-making capacity, options are more. You don't go with instincts always. You also are able to discriminate. When do I have to go with my instincts? And when I have to be a little bit more analytical and not go with my instincts and see a little bit, invest in understanding the situation. Like in the case of this girl, right? Few things put together, huge emotions, and it builds a huge story and it's caught. Analytical capacity to revisit and make the picture accurate. All this is within Ishvara's order. Your accuracies are in keeping with what is, and what is Ishvara. Either your thinking captures what is, or it is operating from its own pictures, images, which are inaccurate. This is a brilliant verse, Mayeva mana adatsva, Mai buddhi niveshaya. These processes have to become more and more accurate, more and more in keeping with realities, both buddhi and mind. Okay, so Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.